In episode 19, titled Secure Third-Party Connectivity and External Integrations, we frame partner links as high-value pathways that deserve deliberate constraints, not optimistic defaults. Every connection you permit extends your attack surface and your obligations, because another organization's failure can quickly become your incident. The System Security Certified Practitioner, spelled SSCP on first mention, treats integrations as engineered relationships. Purpose written down, flows tightly scoped, controls evidenced, and exit ramps rehearsed. When links are intentional rather than ad hoc, they deliver the business value they promised while limiting blast radius when something upstream or downstream breaks. Our aim is to show you how to classify, control, monitor, and, when necessary, quarantine third-party connectivity without stalling the work it is meant to enable. Begin by classifying the integration type so controls match the surface. Virtual Private Network, spelled VPN on first mention, extends network reach and therefore demands strict segmentation, or it becomes a side door into core systems. Private link or provider backbones keep traffic off the public internet but still require identity and authorization at the application layer because private is not the same as trusted. Dedicated circuits grant predictable performance and availability, yet they can carry the same risk as any other pipe if you treat them as implicit allow. Application Programming Interface, spelled API on first mention, links scoped traffic to requests and responses and is often safer when designed carefully, because identity can ride in tokens rather than in broad routes. Choosing a type is a security decision. It decides how narrow your rules can be and where you put the strongest checks. Contracts are controls, so set security requirements in the language of obligations you can later enforce. Require encryption in transit with current protocols, authenticated endpoints with mutual proof, structured logging with retention long enough for investigations, and incident cooperation that includes timelines, artifacts, and names. Define breach notification windows, joint forensic access boundaries, and a duty to maintain compatible cipher suites and certificate rotation schedules. Include right-to-audit clauses proportionate to risk, clear paths for emergency key replacement, and an agreement to test fail-closed scenarios on a cadence. When counsel and procurement anchor these points up front, technical teams inherit leverage to insist on real practices later. Paper by itself does not make you safe, but paper that cites evidence and timelines lets you move partners toward the posture you require. Place connections into dedicated partner zones that expose the least necessary surface and pin egress to known destinations. A partner zone is not a convenience LAN. It is a fenced space with explicit gateways to the internal or restricted zones and no lateral privileges beyond the documented flows. For network extending links like VPN or private circuits, land the peer into this zone, segment routes by application, and require application layer identity even after the tunnel authenticates. For API links, terminate at reverse proxies or gateways inside the zone that enforce schema, method, and rate policies before a request can approach internal services. Ownership is explicit. The zone has a named operator, metrics with thresholds, and diagrams that show which door every packet must use. Least privilege in space is as important as least privilege in code. Secrets are the keys to the kingdom. Manage them like crown jewels. Store API keys, client certificates, and tokens in a secrets vault that enforces access control, dual authorization where appropriate, automatic rotation, and detailed audit trails. Scope each secret to the smallest necessary action set and environment, avoiding God tokens that make incident containment impossible. Prefer short-lived, audience-bound tokens over static secrets. Bind client certificates to named integrations with expiry calendars, and rotate everything on a policy that you actually execute. For service-to-service integrations, use workload identities to fetch secrets at runtime rather than baking them into images. Evidence that this works looks like rotation logs, change tickets that match renewals, and alarmed metrics for stale or overbroad scopes. Secrets you can find, limit, and replace are secrets that serve you rather than surprise you. Narrow reach precisely with allow lists, mutual transport layer security, spelled TLS on first mention, and per integration firewall rules that name who may talk to whom, about what, and when. Internet Protocol allow lists should reference partner-owned address ranges or named interfaces, not any. And every rule should carry a purpose string and an expiration review date. Mutual TLS forces both sides to prove identity before content flows and gives you certificate pinning anchors to detect unexpected peers. Firewalls and proxies should encode method and path constraints for API calls, enforce header normalization, and strip or inject claims only as agreed. The test is simple and harsh. If an attacker steals a partner's token or shifts to an unlisted origin, does the connection fail loudly and fast? If yes, you are on the right track. Visibility wins incidents, so monitor connection health, volumes, and unusual method calls with alerts that reach responders who can act. Track latency, error codes by class, and throughput baselines so deviations surface quickly. Record which credentials or certificates power each call, and flag reuse from novel regions or time bands. For API traffic, profile typical verbs and endpoints. An unexpected burst of privileged methods should page someone with context and a link to the block switch. For network links, watch route announcements, tunnel flaps, and renegotiation patterns that can indicate instability or gamesmanship. Every alert should include an action on page line, close the gate, rotate a key, contact the partners on call, or shift traffic to a degraded but safer mode. Monitoring without clear moves becomes theater. With moves, it becomes a control. Coordination is part of the control surface, so establish joint change windows and contact trees before you need them. Agree on how far in advance each side will notify the other of key changes, certificate rotations, network maintenance, and application deploys that alter schemas or scopes. Keep a living contact sheet with names, phones, escalation orders, and time zone notes for operations, security, and legal, and rehearse it lightly with periodic check-ins. During incidents, know which artifacts each side will preserve, logs, packet captures, token identifiers, and how they will exchange them securely. Shared calendars and agreed blackout periods prevent production pressure from colliding with safety, and clear contacts eliminate the 2 a.m. scavenger hunt for someone at the vendor who can help. Data handling must match the obligations tied to the information you exchange, not just the convenience of a default. Classify data elements before you move them: personal, regulated, financial, operational, and minimize to the least necessary fields for the integration's purpose. Define retention expectations in both directions and write them into both code and contract. How long requests and responses may live in logs, how long derived analytics persist, and when deletion triggers fire. For privacy-bound data, ensure purpose limitation is encoded, not implied, and that subject rights requests can be fulfilled without dismantling the integration. Your map of data classes to flows should read like a story you could tell a regulator: who sent what, why, where it lived, and how it ended. Fail closed is a design choice, not a wish, so test it. Pull the partner certificate and confirm that calls stop and alarms fire. Revoke a token and see that requests fail immediately rather than hours later. Kill a tunnel and validate that no dynamic route leaks keep trickles alive. Simulate a partner compromise by replaying known bad methods, sending requests from unlisted origins, or altering claims to escalate scope, and ensure segmentation and detection trigger the right responses. Document each test with timestamps, evidence, and bug fixes. Then put the scenario on a calendar so it repeats. A link that cannot be forced to fail cleanly under your control will not fail safely under an attacker's. Independent assurance is a lens, not a guarantee, but it helps you calibrate trust. Review Service Organization Control Reports, spelled SOC on first mention, for scope relevance and exceptions. Ask for recent penetration test summaries that include remediation outcomes, and record current certifications with dates and responsible standards. Track remediation evidence for issues that touch your integration surface, key management, logging gaps, access reviews, and set reminders to request updates before renewal windows. Align assurance reviews with your own risk tiers so high-impact links get deeper scrutiny and more frequent check-ins. The point is trend, not trophies. Is the partner's posture improving, holding, or slipping, and what does that mean for your controls? Pitfalls repeat because they save time in the short run. Shared partner credentials erase accountability and multiply blast radius. Replace them with per-integration secrets and short-lived tokens bound to narrow scopes. Broad routes that drop a partner deep into internal address space invite lateral exploration. Collapse them to a partner zone and broker each application path through a gateway. Unmanaged webhooks become surprise egress points with no retry logic or authentication discipline, require signed requests, fixed origins, and idempotent handlers that rate limit and log clearly. Each fix is modest, but together they turn trust by convenience into trust by design, which is the only kind that endures under pressure. Consider a scenario that quarantines a compromised partner API without breaking your own obligations. An analytics vendor's token is stolen, and your gateway sees a spike in privileged methods from an unlisted origin. Rate-based alerts fire, the per-integration firewall rule denies the calls, and the system automatically moves the vendor to a degraded profile that allows only read-only endpoints necessary for a regulatory report due that day, with responses throttled and extra validation enabled. Simultaneously, a rotation job invalidates the vendor's keys and pauses the related data export job, while your contact tree pings the vendor's on-call with evidence and a request for confirmation. Logs, packet samples, and denial counters thread into a single case. Regulatory work continues within narrow lanes. Everything else is blocked until fresh keys arrive and origin checks pass again. Containment and continuity in one move. Close with a practical directive that solidifies governance. Create a partner integration register this week that lists for every active link the business owner, technical owner, integration type, zone landing, permitted flows, secrets in use with next rotation date, assurance artifacts on file with their expiries, and the renewal or review date for both contract and keys. Include contact trees and the action on page notes you expect responders to execute. Store the register where change, operations, and security can see it, and make it a standing agenda item in your monthly risk review. When every external connection has a card you can pull and a date you can act on, third-party risk stops being a rumor and becomes a managed system. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.